Hello and welcome to a new episode of Other Record Labels. I'm your host, Scott Orr, where we talk about the art and culture of running and starting a record label. Today's episode is with a great new label called Substitute Scene. You can find out more about this label by going to substitutescene.com. I've been practicing saying that, those two words together. It's a bit of a tongue twister. Anyway, exciting episode, and thank you so much for listening, and thank you for subscribing and following along with the podcast. It's so much fun. I have such a blast doing this, and I have such a blast talking with labels of all different sizes, especially new labels, and not just on the show, but also in our Facebook community and through emails. If you haven't already, make sure to go to our website, otherrecordlabels.com. And specifically, if you are thinking about starting a record label, or if you're, in the process, you are running a record label, you can download our free toolkit by going to otherrecordlabels.com/toolkit. And in there, I've put a bunch of things like a workbook and a checklist and a sample recording contract and some accounting forms and just a bunch of things that maybe give you a better idea of how people run their labels, or if you're thinking about starting a record label, how you can start a record label. So go to otherrecordlabels.com/toolkit. I feel like I'm saying the word record label a lot, but that's the whole point of it. Enjoy this episode. There's so many labels out there. It's crazy.
I know, really.
It's good though.
For real.
I think it's good to have lots of people kind of bringing up the scene together.
Yeah, I feel like, the select few that used to be able to are certain types of people. And I feel like, now that everyone can kind of more easily do it, you had different voices coming out. I think that's super cool.
Yeah.
And also it gives you endless podcasts. So.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's the only benefit of it, I think. Yeah, no, that's a really good point, actually. I hadn't really thought about that, but there was so much gatekeeping going on. And really, it was just like, there was a label, and it was like a handful of labels, and they decided what comes out. And even, Spotify and Apple Music, as much as it's problematic, it certainly does level the playing field that we can get our music, into the stores in the same way. We could never do that before.
Yeah, totally. I mean, a new set of gatekeepers for sure, but like the way we can pitch directly and stuff is
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
What's the name of the label means? Substitute Scene.
Oh, it's an Elliott Smith reference.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it means a lot of things. It's from the song Waltz XO #2. And I feel like a lot of people are like, Elliott Smith, changed the way I saw music, but that's true of me. And
sure.
Substitute Scene can mean a lot. Like, you substitute your favorite artist all the time, or the new song that comes out that you're into is like a substitute of the old one, or even just like the scene, in Brooklyn where I'm at, like this mom might be a little bit different because, who's part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well, I actually I gave it my own meaning, like when I heard it, and I was like, well, I mean, I just assumed like something, and then I was kind of curious, but that is kind of cool that people can have their own interpretations.
Yeah, totally. Like music.
Yeah, exactly. I have never, I've tried so hard to do the Elliott Smith thing. And I have a friend who's, Elliott Smith changed his life as well and had a huge impact on him. And we had Kill Rock Stars on the show, was like our second episode. And that was his Elliott Smith label. But I've tried so hard, I just can't get into him.
Yeah, that's okay. I feel like that,
I don't know. It bothers me.
Oh, yeah. You're like, damn it. What am I missing?
What's wrong with me?
I think that everyone's maybe, I don't know, kind of has that. Every like super music fan has that one thing. They're just like, I just don't get it. I'm sorry. It's, and a lot of it has to do with like when you find it.
True.
Right.
And I'm pretty open to the idea that in like 10 years or 5 years or 100 years from now, I'll put it on and it will work. It will strike me, and I'll get it. I'll finally get it.
Right. Yeah, I think especially like a lot of people that are fans like I am, like we're definitely like teenagers.
I see. Right.
When you find it,
Yeah.
But you might find a later appreciation for it. You just never know.
No, that's
keep
a
trying,
good point.
I suppose.
And I will keep trying. The thing that I feel like I should like them is just because I love folksy singer-songwriter, lo-fi music. I love if somebody told me that they took an acoustic guitar to a back alley and wrote and recorded a record, I'd be all over it. And so I just feel like I'm like, I really should like this guy. Like, so
yeah,
I'm just
he's
surprised.
he's like tape, like 8-track tape or something in his bedroom.
I know. Anyway, so it's an Elliott Smith song. Okay, that's cool. I'll have to look up that reference. I feel dumb for not knowing that, but that's great. Well, so what was
okay. It's not. No, it's not even like. I mean, it's not even like a major, part of the song or anything, which kind of makes it, I guess, better. Maybe I don't know.
Well, no, I totally get what you're saying, and I probably would do the same if I was starting again. I would look for like a hidden clue in for a label name. That's great. We had Last Night from Glasgow, which was a Scottish label, on a couple weeks ago, and that's a lyric from an ABBA song, which I had no idea.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have called that either, actually.
But it's a line, and it's so it's probably a little bit, and it's like obscured in the lyrics. So I think that's what makes it cool.
Yeah, like what do they call it? Like an Easter egg or something?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't play video games, but
neither do I. So how often do people catch it and be like, "Oh, Elliott Smith reference"?
Actually, only one person has caught it. And it was
give them a free T-shirt.
Yeah, I know, right? It was so I started the label, and it was a coworker at like my day job who like I think is an Elliott Smith fan, but like maybe not super duper into music or anything. But like she caught it, and like she's the first person to be like, "Oh, Elliott Smith, that's awesome." And then the last.
Oh, like and the last. Oh my gosh, that's
it's awesome. Not that people wouldn't get it, but if like maybe if I threw it as like a trivia question or something, people that wouldn't know me would I don't know.
That's so funny.
Maybe
it's
somebody
like
could
just
find
somebody who you assume might not be a music fan at work. It's like the HR lady's like, "Oh, Elliott Smith, great, good for you." Good luck.
Right? Yeah, good luck. Yeah.
So what was did you say you're from Brooklyn?
No, well, that's where I am now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, but I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay. Okay, cool. So what was the genesis of the label? Like I had a difficult time researching this label. And so please fill in all the blanks for us. Like what was where did the idea come from? And take as much time as you want, because I'm kind of curious. This is my favorite kind of discovery is like what put that seed in your mind? What gave you that confidence to do it? Or what, because a lot of people are musicians, a lot of people love music or like to go to record stores, but to actually get into the administration, the logistics of making records, it's a special kind of person. So I'm just kind of curious if you could kind of help fill in all these blanks.
Yeah, sure. I think that the key word you said is confidence, because I feel like, I don't know, you have to like feel pretty special to like do anything new. You know what I mean? Like you have to like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'd like to meet the person that's just like, I could start a label tomorrow. I mean, maybe that person would be horrible because they don't think things through or are too confident in themselves.
Sure.
But yeah, like I think it's the same story of just being like the record store kid. I don't play music. I'm not a musician at all.
Really?
So maybe there's maybe like a part of
That's I gotta keep. Sorry to interrupt you. I gotta keep track of that because that's very rare for me to hear that. But I mean, it's not rare. I mean, I've heard it like 10% of the time, maybe 5% of the time, but it always surprises me. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, maybe that's like the answer to the question. It's just like, well, I don't make music, so like, how do I get closer to it?
True.
And I think that can come in a lot of ways. And I don't necessarily think that like starting a label, I think that confidence is the biggest thing. I don't think I was confident enough, like I could do that. Like that's people in the magazines do that, or like how old am I? People in the magazines, like people on television, like people you hear of do that. Like it's like the logo on the back of the records that I buy, know?
Right.
So yeah, I think being the music fan, like I think I worked a little in music supervision as an intern a few years ago, and and that would be like, if you asked me 10 years ago, that's what I was doing, and that would be maybe more the place. But I don't know. I think time and place with like having the confidence to do something and be around the right people for it. And I think New York's super cool for that. In Brooklyn especially. Just because, and I'm only like I'm almost 7 years here, but I was in Chicago before. Yeah. I think it's just seeing people do things that are like you, right? Like the visibility, right? So I had a couple friends in Chicago that like started labels. Or one that started a label, and I've known of a couple, and just that realization, like, wait, you can just do that, like, you can just start a label,
you
like,
don't need permission.
Some people just do, right? And I'm not renting out, some office space in a building, and like all this stuff. It's like, no, you can actually do it. But yeah, I think it's just being around the people that I was at the time, and the label kind of started at a bar in Bushwick in Brooklyn. Basically as like a hangout spot. But I'm super into vinyl. And luckily enough, I'm really into shoegaze and dream pop and that kind of stuff. And so was the owner of this pub, So I started doing like a Monday night residency there, just playing vinyl only. All that kind of stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I think that was like my first step into trying to do something to participate in music. And so every Monday I just go play the records, and then conversation started, and people started coming that, on a Monday night, that were like, just to come listen or to come hang. And, a lot of those people were like music nerds like me. And I think we found like a community at that place. And, and then, when those things happen, like that's when collaboration starts, right?
Right. So you've always had this like desire to share music that you've discovered?
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a lot of people that, when you hear music for the first time, that's like different than, what your parents were always listening to, or like something from the radio, or like whatever, like you realize there's like more to music out there, and like you want to dive into that rabbit hole. Right. Like if you're that kind of person that actually wants to dive in, I feel like you like, whether you become a musician or something, work at a record store or something, like you always want like to be part of it in some way.
Right.
Right. Like that's that rabbit hole. Right. And then getting the joy out of like discovery, turning into sharing with everybody. Right. And like, I feel like, that's all I've ever wanted to do is find a way to share it. And like, was it starting a label right away? Like, no, like, I don't think, I felt like that was too big or something. I don't know.
Let me ask you a question. I just want to pause the story, and I want you to keep going. But I want to ask you a question. Do you see yourself as an entrepreneur, or does that word bother you?
I don't think it bothers me, but I feel like, I don't know, when I hear that word, I feel like somebody trying to make money as the first. Okay. Like as the first thing they're trying, like as the goal.
Okay. Cool definition. Yeah. Okay.
What do you think when you hear
Well, I don't know. I'm just curious. I just finished a book called The Soul of the Entrepreneur, which is a great book, but and it kind of dispels that myth of like, a lot of us think of like Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, like basically like startups in Silicon Valley and assholes. And so I feel like, but there is something about, okay, now, money first. I don't know. I don't think that. I don't think that money first. I feel like, because you had said, here's the reason I ask. Like you had said something earlier that just kind of triggered it, where it was like, there's certain people who will like create something, or certain people who feel like they can make something. And that's just kind of what triggered that word for me, was that, like most people would just be like, I can't start a record label. I can't start a business. Like I need to go and get a job and cash my check every week. And so I don't know. I just feel like, to me, an entrepreneur is someone who's just like takes an alternate route in life. I guess that would be my definition.
I mean, that's awesome. I love that, actually. Yeah. Like that was my bias, is sort of like entrepreneur means like, I plan to support myself and make money off the idea that I have, and that's it.
Right.
Kind of thing,
and maybe yeah. Well, there's multiple definitions, but and that is certainly, I'm sure that's certainly a factor, like versus working for the man, quote unquote. But, but yeah. Okay. But yeah, I guess I'm just kind of in this context, I think of it as like not playing by the rules, like taking chances, being creative, not just artistically, but in life. Is that you?
I love that. I love that. I mean, I guess. I mean, I like I have a day job.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm like really like going for. Yeah, I know. And I also and I also think like like are we wise like if we like, are taking chances and making our own path like
that's true.
we're not in it for the big bucks like let's be real. But yeah, no, that's super interesting. Like I don't know, like you just mentioned reading something. Like, what was the book again?
It was called The Soul of the Entrepreneur by David Sachs. We've actually had him on the show because he also authored a book called The Revenge of Analog, which was studying like the popularity of vinyl and the resurgence of notebooks and anything physical. Very, very great author. I love the dude. But yeah, it's a good book. It's a very good book. It's not a Silicon Valley business book. It's
right. Like get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway,
that's cool. I feel like you mentioned a book, like that book that influenced you, and believe me, I have not like finished this book. I don't know the whole thing, but it was called like A Great Good Place or something.
Oh,
it was a book about like the third place in your life. Like you have home and work, and then you have the third place, right? Like in Germany, it used to be like beer gardens, but it wasn't about getting drunk. It was like the family hung out and like the beer was less, and it was like having a third place, which would be like your pub or your like venue or whatever. And I feel like to me like that's more what I like to do with the label, which is sad these times, but is to I don't know, collaborate with people. And like that's what kind of the bar's called The Rookery in Bushwick, where the label started, and that's sort of like that was the meeting place. That's right? Like on place. Mondays, that was, and like, bands create third places for people. Music does.
Amazing.
Right?
So in this book, I'm going to get this book. I've heard the third place in reference to Starbucks, like 20 years ago. Like I thought that they kind of almost coined the phrase, like, because like, I don't know how old you are, but like, 20 or 30 years ago, you could go to a restaurant, but there wasn't a place you could just go sit down and relax. Or maybe a club, like if you were rich or something. But like you had like the watering hole, and then but for people who weren't alcoholics, you didn't really have a place to just go and relax. So I've heard that term before, but in this context, it can be like not a physical location. It can actually just be like, are you saying it could be like a group of people or you think about it in a physical location, but like, I don't know. It wasn't physical, I guess. Mm-hmm. I was trying to speak to like the community that a label brings more than anything else. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so cool.
And that being the idea behind it. And this book's like super old. I don't remember who wrote it. Maybe I'll follow up with you.
I'll look it up.
Forgive me if it's horrible. I just remember taking that idea from it.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, continue on your journey. I'm sorry to get so philosophical here.
No, I love this. And also like no one knew that I like tuned into like Emily O'Brien's life story. It's like, let's talk about the label for a second. But yeah, back to the story. Oh yeah, just I knew a couple people that worked at indie labels or did PR or whatever, just as hangout buddies. And yeah, an artist came up that needed a vinyl pressed. And being a vinyl DJ, my friend Andy Wilson, who at the time was working at Cassine Records, but they do PR and management, all sorts of stuff now. But they brought this artist to me, and they were on Celestial Sound, which I don't think they're a label any longer. They used to be. Okay. Either way, they needed a vinyl pressed, and I was like, well, maybe I can do it. In Dream of Dreams, like I'll just go out and press every record that should be on vinyl, where these indie artists or indie labels don't have like, the backing or the desire, like I'll just, that'll be what the label is, the That's label will be like a physical thing, which is so cool, right? Yeah. What an idea. Amazing. And being a vinyl DJ and have an outlet to play it and promote, like, this is the first thought. And then like you press your first round of vinyl, you're like, oh, Oh, that's how much that costs.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
get that surprise every time I get an estimate for a project. I'm like, oh, I forgot. I forgot it's gut wrenching.
Yeah. Ooh, how do I distribute that?
Tapes it is. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's kind of how the label began. And yeah, Andy and I, like it was loose. Like we kept it as like, because she does like a lot of PR. She was working for PR at the time. It's like, okay, well, she would do the PR and I do the admin stuff. So yeah, so like,
That's great.
yeah, she still worked on almost every release PR wise, but the label's really just like me, and then all awesome people collaborating that are good at like what they do.
Well, yeah, no, I've been there too. And I think it's so great to have like, especially somebody to help with the PR, because I've always found like PR is kind of like after you've courted the artist and you've come to an agreement and you've helped them put a record together and you've helped them manufacture it. And maybe you were even involved in the tracking or the mixing or mastering or whatever. But I feel like once you get to this promotion stage, and that's really where the artist has high expectations of you.
Yeah.
But like, I just feel like I'm so burnt out by then. And, my entrepreneurial spirit is like looking for to start the next project, sign the next band. So having like someone in PR to hand the baton off to, I'm envious of that.
Oh, it's a dream, right?
So
like
cool.
And PR is tricky too. Like it's not a job for like the week,
No,
because it is true. Like my favorite part like of running a label is like meeting the art, like finding the artist like at a show somewhere, meeting them and getting to know them, and doing all this stuff, and we get to be on such good terms. And I really try to become friends with everyone I release in some way, just because it's so personal to release somebody else's music. That when it comes to PR and things aren't happening or things aren't clicking the way, maybe we thought, or, the way they hoped, it's tough, because nothing's guaranteed, you know.
It's totally out of your control. I mean, there's so
absolutely.
much that's in your control early on, but then you just kind of throw it out to the gods at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the one person that could have written something to make it all okay is sick that day. You know what I mean? Like it feels just like so random at times. So I give it to PR people because they have to take a lot of rejection and they have to like really handle people's, expectations.
I released my own record, a couple years ago, and I had this contact at Apple Music, and they had been really supportive of my music and my label's music leading up to, and they'd done some really incredible things for us. And so I was preparing my record, and it was like a month away or 2 months away. And I sent it to this person, and they were like pretty much my only like ace in the hand. Like I didn't really have any other contacts. This was just a great contact. And I got this auto response that they were on mat leave. And I was like, oh no. Like for a year. I'm like,
congratulations,
oh, no.
But no.
Yeah. Good for them. But
Good for you.
Have a lovely family, but I got a record over here.
Yeah.
That was such a, but that just goes to speak to like the nature of like you said, they're sick that day. And then your email just piles up with all their other stuff. Brutal.
I know. And like, you can't, I don't know if you've had experience with like tying it back to actual like results or streams or, sales or not. It's kind of hard to tie PR back, but
I mean, sometimes you get lucky and you can be like, oh, we're on this playlist. We're getting all these streams from this playlist. We're on this playlist because of this person, and this person is friends with this band member. But like, most of the time you have no clue.
Yeah. So it's hard too, but I think it makes the artist feel really good. And I do think it helps. I mean, I think sharing, the music, it all helps. So
yeah. Oh, sure. So when you came up with the idea in a pub, this drunken evening, what year was this? Can you take me back?
Oh yeah. This is probably the summer of 2017.
2017. I thought so.
Yeah.
That's when you registered your Twitter account. That was like my my private eyes.
I'm so bad at Twitter. I'm the worst.
Yeah.
I got to get better at Twitter.
Same.
I'm just like old enough not to be good at it.
Same. I hate it. I'm feeling a little more comfortable. I think my gift is just to listen and to like things and to retweet occasionally. But anytime I try to be funny, I always come off as being mean, and then I delete it. So, oh man.
Oh, this is not working.
Yeah, this is not working. So 2017. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So 4 years coming up.
Yeah, the first release was actually weird enough. We're speaking on January 19th. And that's the 3-year anniversary of the first release. Today,
okay.
Actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, today?
It's hard to know. Yeah,
it's
today,
a 3-year anniversary
right?
of the... Oh, 19? Look at that.
I know. This is
serendipitous.
This is amazing. Right?
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So the Suno Deco release came out. Yeah. 3 years ago today. So it was just a vinyl. Yeah.
What was it? And how have the vinyl releases going for you? Because I think I'm skipping ahead of my questions here, but like I don't know if you like how you feel about formats, or if you had thought we want to be homogenous in our formats, or if we're going to try everything. What you started off as a vinyl DJ, so obviously vinyl is great, but it comes with tons of problems and challenges.
Yeah.
So what drives like what format you choose for a record?
Yeah, I mean, I think ideally vinyl would be, the place to be for us, every time. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like you have to worry about distribution and all that stuff. And like, you probably know, I mean, I think everyone knows that you do sit on some stock,
Yes. Sometimes literally.
So yeah, yeah, I don't know. Where are you at? You're in Canada, right? In Calgary or something, or
pardon? Canada. No, I'm in Toronto.
In Toronto. Okay, area. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so like Brooklyn apartments, just like, oh, cool. Well, yeah, this is the furniture. That's nice. That's good.
Go sit over there on our first release. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Right. Yes.
So true. And trying to avoid that. Yeah, I would love to do vinyl for everything. I think it's hard for EPs. And I do like to do like full releases. Like I haven't yet done just like a single release on anything. Yeah. I'm a big album fan. So, so with the EPs, it doesn't make sense for margin. If it makes sense,
Yeah, right.
It's kind of tough.
It's tough for the fans, right? Like the fan, because there's no price difference, right? On a 12-inch, like for how many tracks you put on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is also a fun thing to find out, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But yeah, for full lengths, I would like to always do vinyl. I think that, COVID's changed that because I feel like, everyone that says this, that, 60% plus is at shows that people buy anything. Yes. And I love the idea of a tape, but obviously like that's maybe a show souvenir more than people are actually listening to it.
Sure.
And I like something, I like something physical, but I would prefer vinyl all the time.
Yeah.
Bandcamp Fridays, however, have been helping a lot.
Great.
With vinyl sales.
That's great.
Yeah. I love what they're doing there. So yeah, the dream would be vinyl only. I think tapes are great. And actually like we had one CD and like CDs did well. And not because I'm like, I don't drive, like I'm in New York. I was in Chicago before, like I don't drive, we don't drive a lot, but like if you go to the middle of the country, like people buy them, like they still have CDs in cars.
Oh yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, it's like, for sure. Yeah. I mean, just like new cars now are stopping with CD players, but yeah, I think it's, I've heard they still do well, and you can easily ask $10 for an album on CD, and
totally.
And like, not every fan is the same. We always think we know our archetype, but like, like you said, geography, but also sometimes somebody comes to the show, they're there to support their friends or a friend of a friend. And they might see a tape, and to you and I, we understand the culture of tapes, but they might see a tape and be like, what the hell? Or even a vinyl. They might be like, oh, vinyl's coming back. That's interesting. But like, and so for like a CD, it's just right up their alley,
Yeah, they're like, oh, I could play this, or like, oh, I think my friend would like this that lives back in Ohio, or like, and I feel like even with like like my mom or something, I'm like, oh, you want to listen to this release I put out? Like, she's like, no. I'm like, okay. But like, if it was on CD, like, she probably would, take a spin.
Oh, sure.
So I don't know.
Yeah. I can't understand the words. That's what my mom
I know. That's always a thing.
I can't hear what they're saying.
Always a thing.
Yeah. No, I don't have any problems with CDs. I mean, I just think, and they're pretty cheap they've gone down considerably. So
right.
I think like $250 for 50 or something like that is pretty normal.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking, and artists kind of look at me crazy too, but I'm actually thinking just like, why not? Like, have you ever done something that's just like a short run with like CDs and tapes?
Have I?
Like just like 20 or like 30?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah. I'm actually working on something right now, and it's a full length for the fall, and I'm considering vinyl just because I feel pressured, and I really want it so bad, but I know I'm gonna like eat it on it. But but I'm also too. But I'm thinking of tapes and CDs. So I'm thinking about doing as few CDs as I can. I'm actually thinking about trying to do the CDs in house. And and then cassettes, probably pay someone to do maybe like 30 or 40. But yeah, like short runs of everything. And I'm actually I've been thinking, I found a stereo lathe cutting person who's local. So I've been even thinking about like, what about short runs of everything? And I mean, I don't know, you're maybe not going to make a huge profit, but at least you can release 3 formats.
Well, yeah, they have the like the 100 minimum like vinyl press. You just you hit it on the margin, right? I mean, the margin, it's like $14 a record or something.
As soon as you keep one for yourself, then you've lost money.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's kind of how it goes. So I've looked into those too, and I was like, shit. Like I guess I'll spend the few hundred more to get the full run, and then it's furniture, like you said. But
yeah, sometimes I feel like releasing on vinyl or releasing on any format is kind of like a promotion. It's like a paid promotion for the digital. So like, I feel like if I did a cool vinyl package, the diehard fans could buy it, people at shows on impulse, maybe in a local record store. But I feel like the amount that you share it on social media, it acts as like this repetitive banner for Spotify. So somebody might see a nice looking cassette and they like the artwork and like the way it's put together, but they're not going to shell out $15 for a record they've never heard, but they'll be more compelled to go check it out on Spotify than if you just posted a link to Spotify. I don't know. That's like a theory, but I just kind of feel
I think that's genius. I think that's brilliant.
Thank you. It's just a theory, but yeah.
No, but I see that for sure. It's not about selling. It's a promotional tool.
Mm-hmm.
I have stopped in my tracks about physical when they require different templates for the art.
True. Okay.
And sometimes like the artist doesn't have that, and that's like a little bit of a holdback.
Yeah. No, and even if you're paying a designer, all of a sudden, it might be a couple $100 for one format, but yeah, the templates are all over the place. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's just like a consideration from that part. But yeah, I think what you're saying about just promoting the vinyl, or especially because I've had like such beautiful artwork come across and we didn't press it on vinyl, and I just feel like so sad about it.
Yeah, I know. I've been there too. Yeah.
I was like, it's so gorgeous. Like we should be able to hold it in our hand as a record. We really should.
Yeah, and I think just kind of going back to that, like, to the point of using them as promotional tools, like I feel like if you press like a decent amount, like 200 to 300, then you can be a little bit more liberal with giving them away too. So go to your record store and, I'd give like 2 to sell and 1 for them to keep or to give away as a contest or something, like just to like, because you have so many and they're going to be furniture anyway, then you might as well bless people and say, hey, let me just send you a record or whatnot,
Right. And you give them to the record store and they play them in the store, which is great.
That's right.
And also anytime a publication writes about one of the artists, I want to send them something to thank them, And I think like sending someone a vinyl or like, if you get a sync or, like whatever it might be, whoever helped you out or supported you along the way.
I know.
It goes a long way.
Yeah. Not for every, like, blog or whatever, or every tweet. But like, definitely, I know what you mean. People who have made an impact. It's like, I just want to say thank you, and they would totally appreciate it.
Absolutely. So good for that as well.
Let me ask you, what kind of obstacles did you encounter in the beginning? Like, I'm kind of curious what type of obstacles new labels face today. When I was starting out, it was things like financial obstacles or gatekeepers or whatnot. But like, are there things that kind of get in your way at all?
Yeah, I mean, like I guess I was I've been pretty slow about releases. So, so it wasn't like I was trying to do too much and things got in the way that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you could probably benefit from like an accountant and a lawyer eventually, like all these different little things. Like, I wish I knew Photoshop better. Like, I wish,
totally.
the little things. I think like timelines, obviously, I think everyone will say like they underestimate, how long things can take to happen.
Yeah.
Like, especially with like vinyl press, for example, like giving yourself enough lead time and things like that. I think getting like a digital or a physical distributor for physical stuff, is like a big thing. Labels have, like, knowing that if they press vinyl or something, that 50 are going out the door no matter what.
Yes.
Like that kind of thing.
Yes.
And just making those connections and understanding who to trust. Like, would you have a digital distributor or not? Like, I just feel like I saw like these little, like, not gatekeepers, that's the wrong word, but not obstacles, not even the right word either, but like these next steps that you see other people doing that you want to take, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just figuring out the best way to get there so that you can feel confident that if someone signs to your label, that like you're doing them, like you're doing right by them, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah. I think we all have those like little things that we envy from other labels.
Yeah.
That it's like, oh man, I should probably have that by now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So like a little bit like that. But I mean, I kind of took it easy, like obviously like the obstacle of like, I think I ordered too many vinyl, at first, like I think everyone kind of makes that little mistake. But yeah. It's so all easy, a learning process.
It's so easy to overestimate who will buy your records. And, I have friends who have released records and I don't have a copy of it because I didn't go to the show where they were selling it, or I really only buy like one record a month, like, at that even. And so like, I just feel like I try to tell this to artists when they're like, let's do 500. And I'm like, hold on a second. I'm like, the vinyl resurgence isn't as like widespread as you might think it is. And even the people that who have turntables, like they still have to like pull out their wallet and give you $25. Like it's easier said than done.
Yeah. Like you think 500, like that's nothing. I'm like, that's a lot.
Yeah. 200 is a lot.
200 a lot. I know.
Yeah. So you said you experienced about 60% at shows? Or did you say 40?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I would say probably.
That's fair. Yeah, I think
I mean, I would say so. Especially if the band's touring, that's everything. So yeah. I was actually lucky though. The second release I co-released with Father Daughter Records.
Oh, no way. I love that.
Yeah,
that's
with
awesome.
Jesse and Tyler. Yeah.
Great.
So I kind of like, I feel like I was lucky to like take a class.
Yeah.
From like the people that are just so amazing and kind and open and smart and know what they're doing.
I've interviewed both of them, and I've taken a 60-minute lecture from both of them, and not a bad lecture. Yeah. Like I wasn't lectured, but they're so great.
I recommend that. Like, reach out to labels that you like that are that know what they're doing. I don't know, like I love collaborating like that. It goes back to the community thing that I'm in this for. Like, that's why I'm here, to bring the community of people together.
I've been hearing, I've heard of that quite a bit along this journey about labels that will team together. And sometimes it's two big labels, and sometimes it's a medium-sized label and a big label, or but I would encourage, like, I mean, I've never done it, but you have, and you're promoting it. But I just think it's a great idea. I think more people should do it, especially if it spreads the risk, spreads the financial responsibility, and it doubles the reach I think it's great.
Right. Yeah, and I think that like I actually think to the artist it's sort of confusing, you know, because they're like, well, what, like who does what, and like whatever. It's like, well, we'll do whatever we're strong at, which means like whatever. Like it's my second release and it's Father Daughter Records. Like what am I doing? Like, you know, like I'm definitely
I'll
like
just sweep the floors over here, guys.
Yeah, exactly. But really like in just having like the enthusiasm of like maybe a newer label and then like one last lot of ours, you know, like whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And those team ups, like, I don't know, like I love collaborations like that. Yeah, because you're right. Like half the financial costs, double the reach. The artists can get, you know, whatever each label is good at. You learn from each other. You double your community. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Let's move on from obstacles and now we're talking on a more positive note. What does a win look like for your label? Like, what kind of things put gas in your tank and, to encourage you to keep going?
I think when the artist is super stoked about it, like that's my litmus test.
Okay. Super stoked about what?
Like about like the fact that they partnered with us.
Right. Okay.
You know, you know, like with how it's going and everything, because I feel like if anything, like we're their messenger, right?
Yes.
Like we're their, that it's their music. And that's great. I mean, obviously, like I hate myself for saying this, but like you know, a great playlist hit on Spotify.
No. Yeah. Totally.
Blah blah. You know,
I totally agree. I mean it.
You know.
Yeah.
You know, like that's like kind of like the biggest one because I don't know. It shows some potential for discovery and also, you know, revenue.
It's revenue. Yeah.
You know, but like big like editorial things, like when like a publication that I've loved forever writes about it, like that's a win. My win was always the release show.
Oh, really?
But, yeah.
Oh, I'm never into those. Good for you.
No.
No, well, I don't know why. I'm just a hermit, but go on. Tell me.
Yeah, like, I mean, part of this is like the social aspect for me. And like the reason that I felt like maybe confident about like starting a community around the labels, because like that, you know, like that's my favorite part of it. It's like the being at the show and like, you know, like the artists can invite their friends and like here at the show and like have a big party about it. And I don't know, I feel like it makes a very digital only feeling sort of music industry feel real.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because we spend so much time like that reading, I don't know, like endless social media feeds of just like, oh, I got this many likes on this video I released, or like this many views on YouTube, or, you know, whatever. But like I don't know, the release show makes it feel like, okay, like this is actually a real thing. And a lot of people show up, like that's, I don't know, the biggest compliment, you know?
Well, getting 50 plays on like streams on YouTube of a video or something is nothing compared to 50 people in a room.
Right?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's so interesting. It's kind of beautiful about, I mean, we talked at the beginning about how your job or you feel compelled to share music with people. And then when I asked you your wins, a lot of them was just anything that affirms your, you know, this music or your mission and affirms that you picked the right band. You know, if the bands are stoked, if people come to the shows, if a blog, you know, I just think that's great. And I'm totally with you on that. It's like, I discover a band or I hear a record and I'm like, this is beautiful. And I just want the world to agree with me. Like, please tell me I'm not crazy.
Oh my God, absolutely. You know, it's just sort of like, oh, okay, well, yeah. Like I wasn't crazy. Yeah, that's like a first thing.
Yeah,
but it's also like I'm not crazy. Like they're awesome. Like everyone needs to people need to hear this. You know.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think like even thinking to start a label was when you like see a really underattended show with somebody amazing on the stage, right? Yeah, you're like, this is existing in the world, and nobody is here for it. Like, somebody's got to, you know.
I've been
Someone's
there.
got to help that.
Yeah. That's so sad. Yeah. And so your strengths are then like the personable side of things, like meeting with the artists and liaisoning with them or being at shows. Is that correct? Am I pulling that right?
Yeah. I mean, like I would definitely say that. Like I'm very passionate about like getting everyone together to hang out. Like I'm very passionate about getting people out. I think a lot of people want to do that and maybe don't know where to go or like, like how to do that, but then there's other people like me that are maybe a little more introverted that like need that kind of community and that kind of place. My favorite thing is like getting people to show up somewhere and be happy about it. You know?
Yeah. I mean, as we're recording this, like we're almost a year from that being legal. How are you coping with that?
I mean, yeah, let's like get all the extroverts on the line. I think my partner's actually an introvert, and I'm like, is this what it feels like when you don't want to go to the party? Is this like the depression when you have to go to the party? Is how you feel?
Right.
It's like, it's like the reverse. It's like, I'm dreading this party. I'm like, I'm dreading being inside any longer.
Crazy. Yeah.
So it's sad. And it definitely, it takes what I started this about, like, obviously COVID takes that away, and it's not the biggest thing. Like, obviously that's like a bigger deal, but yeah, I mean, I'm so looking forward to everyone getting back together. And like, there was a lot of like live streaming at the beginning of this, the beginning of quarantine and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know, like, have you checked out a lot of that live streaming stuff?
No.
Yeah. And I haven't really either, like, I feel like being near people and bouncing things off each other and like the excitement of the show and stuff, I feel like that's what I'm most excited about, I guess.
Yeah. I'm a part of me has found it really relaxing this year to not have to make up an excuse to not go to my friend's show. So I'm definitely a homebody. I usually will have a nap and like wake up and get dressed and go to a show. But at the same time, I now feel like as soon as they open the floodgates, I'm probably going to just be buying tickets left, right, and center. Like, I'll just be going to see everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Big or small.
Oh, yeah. Same. Me too.
Yeah, go ahead.
And to be able to support artists again.
Oh,
in more of a way, right?
So if you're surviving though, I assume. Yeah. and I mean, do you think there'll be takeaways from, like, do you think there'll be a good things from the pandemic or sorry, I shouldn't say pandemic, but from the lockdown and the change of our culture and society, but do you think there'll be some takeaways in the music industry or for you guys that will, like, good things that you can take with you into the post-pandemic world?
I mean, I think there's like an element of gratefulness for sure.
Yes.
But I don't know, like, I think it's all going to be different. Like, I don't know about in Toronto, but like in New York, like these venues are just dropping.
Oh, totally.
It's 100%. It's wildly sad. They're like third places or like, that are just slowly disappearing. So yeah, I think there's a sense of gratefulness. I think, I think that maybe more people will actually go support like their artists that they were like, oh, I like them, but they'll be back in town like next week. Like, I think there's a preciousness and stuff that people are taking away from this. I know that a lot of artists I talked to definitely felt pressured to be more creative during lockdown because obviously they had the time, the space, and all these things. And some have. So I think there might be some cool quarantine projects coming out of it.
Oh yeah.
But as far as the learning, I think I learned like why I'm in this, and it's the connection with the people on the label. And
right.
Yeah, I guess I'm just excited for it. I don't really know what I'm going to take from it. I can tell you later after it's over.
Yeah, though I think we all can. I think we'll all, in 5 years we'll be like, oh, here's what we learned from that. No, I totally agree. And I do hope, I feel like I'm going to be grateful for the record stores and for the venues that are still there, and definitely not take things for granted anymore.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest deal.
You mentioned online that your label is a female and queer-led label. Is that distinction important, like an important form of representation for you in the music scene?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm a female, I'm a queer person. Yeah, I think it's like probably the oldest story in time of like the scene or like the DIY venue or something that's just like a bunch of cis white dudes,
Yes.
like not the,
Yes.
like,
yeah, exactly.
like, and that's the majority of everything. And
yeah.
like, I know there's definitely like a handful of labels that are run by women now, but they're a lot fewer than maybe even some people might think. And I don't know, like it's not, I think the purpose of the label is to be inclusive. And I think that's a message that has come in so strong, like in the last like 5 years or so.
Yeah.
And all labels are trying to be like that. But yeah, I think it's just a representation of like a different group of people putting something out than usual.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and not to say like the majority like of our roster is female or queer identifying or non-binary. But it's not to say that like the next band's not going to be like, you know, the same, you know, the white dudes. You know?
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it is important to me because there's a white dudes. Yeah. Well, there's that band like there's that band like the like White Family or something. I don't know. They're like a band. I don't know if you remember.
No.
It's like an older band, like an older folk band or something. Yeah. But anyway, but yeah, that is important to me just because I feel like the space has changed a lot in Brooklyn, especially, and it's more inclusive and something it used to be, obviously. But yeah, it is an important distinction because I think that we come from like maybe a different place. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be like too staunch about it. I don't want to be too like, I don't want to be exclusionary or anything.
No,
I just, it's important. Some people feel like safer in different situations.
I 100%
and we're definitely
agree,
a safe space. You know, yeah, I don't know. I think the approach that we take is like friendship and humanity first. And I think, yeah, we don't release a lot, but like I know the people, I know the human beings behind the music before that goes out. Just because I feel like I want like everything to be a safe space that comes through the label. And I don't know. Maybe I'm rambling. Sorry.
No. It's great. I as you're talking, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of feel like having a safe space for the artist is great, and that's something that hasn't existed before. And hopefully, there's more and more of it happening. But I also wonder if it provides a safe space for listeners as well. Like if the listeners find representation of themselves in the music they listen to and the labels that they support, I imagine that's important.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think a lot of it's about, visibility as like an idea, right? Too, because, even just saying like, why'd you start a record label? You're not a musician, all these stuff. It's like, once I saw other people like doing this, like I felt like I could do it, or I felt like I could relate or whatever. Yeah. And, yeah, I feel like having a label that's like mostly coming from, these slightly different voices. I feel like, yeah, the listener has a safe space to like, I guess relate to the music that we're putting out. And I think it's very important, like anything we put out, whether it's like a little like grungier or, a little more dream pop or a little more folky, I feel like there's like regardless, I think the thread is like, there's a certain emotional intelligence in like the music and the lyrics of the artists that we're releasing, which I think is really cool.
Do you feel, I've asked this of lots of labels before, and do you feel like there is a common thread throughout your releases or throughout your artists?
Yeah, and I would definitely say that it's like the emotional intelligence in the songwriting, whether it's like an unexpected lyric that comes out of nowhere that just like hits you like, oh, or
right.
It could be something instrumental. I don't know.
No, I get that 100%.
Like the wordless choruses.
Yeah. I went through a whole year, and it's still pretty prominent in my music listenings, but I went through a whole year where I just couldn't stand anything with lyrics. Like I just was, or with like vocals. Like I felt like I was like, could you guys please shut up for a second? I'm trying to listen to the music. I just found myself every time I put something on with vocals, I just was like distracted. But so I get your point. Yeah.
Yeah. I really like, and there are exceptions, but I really hate songs that are like with a person's name. Okay.
Oh,
you know?
okay. Yeah, yeah.
When it's like Brandy or Fine Girl or whatever. That's
You
like
mean,
the first one to come to my head. But
wait,
like
wait, wait.
when it's like
So like
when
if
they give the character.
the song title is
Yeah.
someone's name,
Yeah.
I am
Like they give the
100% in line with you. Okay,
Nice.
I got to say this story, but I'm not going to use the name. But there is a pianist who, a piano player who has this beautiful instrumental record. It's like neoclassical record, and it's I absolutely adore this record. And the first song is the most beautiful song, and it's got like 1 million streams on Spotify. But it's the name of someone I worked with, like in an office, and it comes up like when I'm driving the car on my iPod. It just comes up like I put it on, and there's that person's name staring back at me. And it bothers me so much, but it is the most beautiful song in the world. But yes, I 100%. Now I'm actually just thinking if I've ever released a song like that, I should double check. But
I'm like, now that I said it, I'm like, oh shit, is there something on the label?
I probably have. So I'm definitely a hypocrite, but I get what you're saying. I'm never going to do it again.
Too specific.
Too specific.
Make it let me make it my own.
Well, even like if and I think it's because, for me as a listener, I just like to take the music and the lyrics and the more abstract the lyrics, the better, just so that I can shoehorn it into whatever I'm feeling at the moment. And so, yeah, if it's a song about Diane, I'm just like, this is not like I can't,
right?
So.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad we are on the same page there. Also, apologies to all the wonderful songs out there with people's names in them.
Yes. I'm sure you had good intentions, but please go and change the names now. Re-upload new versions.
Everything should just be... Oh, go ahead.
How far ahead are you making plans these days? Like, what does the rest of the year look like for you?
I mean, I'm sure you heard a lot of people say that 2020 things got postponed.
Yeah, right.
So we released one thing last year and then stopped.
Okay.
So I'm still getting back to planning ahead really far because I feel like anything could happen these days, I suppose.
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, but we have an EP coming out. Will be announced next week. That's coming out March 2021. I don't know when this is airing.
Yeah, I don't know either. Maybe like a month from now. So this will be out in February sometime. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So something in March, and then we're doing something else for the spring, and then like second half is like TBD. Just because I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I feel like everything is so unpredictable.
Yeah.
And there's certain things I would release if like shows were going on that I might not release in a quarantine environment. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm prepping a record for October, but now you have me second guessing myself. But
no, don't second guess yourself.
I hope. Do you remember at the beginning of the pandemic back in March when people were postponing their shows till June? I remember like everyone we're like, okay, we've decided to postpone this tour till May and June. Oh boy.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. Little did we know.
Yeah.
Naive babies.
Yeah. And now people are going to listen back to this and be like, oh, remember when Scott thought releasing a record 2.5 years after the pandemic started was a good idea? What a dummy.
2024, Scott, you idiot.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, so you plan, but you are planning. So you're kind of tentatively planning the fall.
Yeah. So I'm sure about two releases in the first half. But then tentatively thinking about the fall for sure. But yeah, I think something might come along. It's just, like I haven't released. Well, I guess there was one thing last year, but just learning from releasing in this environment too.
Yeah.
Again, I want to make sure that people hear it.
Yeah, totally. I feel like I'm kind of curious, and I don't know, I'm curious your thoughts, but like, I wonder how much should I learn and adapt to this environment, or should I just wait until it's over? Like, is it
400%, exactly. Same.
Yeah.
Well, it's even like thinking about like structuring your whole label strategy around Spotify. Like that's going to be different in 5 years. Like who knows?
Yeah.
People might be over it. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe doubt it, but you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. I felt that this way from the beginning when I put out my first CD in like 2020 or 2020 2003 or something or whatever. I put MySpace logo on the back of the record, and then
amazing.
or maybe even was it Pure Volume? Maybe. Do you remember Pure Volume?
Wow. Oh, barely. Yeah,
barely. But like my point is, then after that, I would think it was Facebook or Twitter or something. But like, I always was just like, what do you put on the like your URL, like MySpace.com/. And so
right.
I was always changing that, and I got to a point, and I feel like Apple Music, Spotify has kind of settled for a little while, but I got to a point where I was like, what do we promote? It changes every album every 2 years.
Yeah.
That always
Who
frustrated
knows?
me.
Like, I even feel that way about like my like URL for the website. Like, I feel like I should just direct everyone to Bandcamp because like it's so easy to listen to the music there.
Well, and to Bandcamp's credit, I mean that's probably one of the only music online platforms that have like, hit 10 years and is still there and more relevant than ever.
Yeah.
I mean, even iTunes didn't last that long.
Right.
Maybe,
wow.
I don't
that's
know.
right.
Maybe they did. I don't know. Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is pretty nuts. I think like Bandcamp's like doing the digital real life thing. I feel like I'm just like, it's like a record store.
Yeah.
It's like a community in a record store, like High Fidelity or like Empire Records. Like I feel like Bandcamp's like the digital version of that.
Have you ever been to their Oakland store?
I have not.
Neither have I. That's on my bucket list. Talk about a third place.
Oh, I know. Right. God. And they're doing the new thing where they're doing the vinyl pressing, which is super interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah. Now, you know what's interesting about that? I actually thought about that right at the beginning of this conversation because you had talked about, you had heard about a band who needed a vinyl pressing and you stepped up. And, there's a lot of dialogue going on about this vinyl pressing with Bandcamp, and there's so many questions I have. But, one of the things, I mean, they are taking a cut, obviously, from this process, but they are providing like the logistics and the production logistics, which is quite the headache. Like so if they're going to take a significant distributor percentage to do drop shipping as well as to handle the manufacturing, my God, yeah, go ahead, take what you want. Take the cut. So what kind of things? I mean, that was amazing for you to take that production task from the bands. They must love that.
Oh yeah, like it was wonderful. I actually worked with Pirates Press.
Okay.
On the first release too. It just was recommended to me, and I think that they're the Bandcamp.
Yeah, I have heard that. One. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was great. I mean, I don't mind it. I also feel like maybe there's something to be said for the fact that I've like had kind of like a corporate day job for the last 10 years. So like maybe that kind of stuff of like the painstaking like emailing and all that stuff.
Yeah,
like
you're a responsible adult. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. No, I'm just
I know how to email someone and get back. Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally
But I feel
agree.
like, I don't know, I just feel like, artists can go either, one of two ways of being like, oh yeah, I'll get that to you, or like be on time and be ready. And like, that's really cool. But I just think some artists need a label because they do need somebody to step in and like manage deadlines and stuff like that. I feel like that's a lot of it sometimes.
Yeah. You know what? It really is like hand holding and poking and like just saying like, hey, like, wake up. We need you to sign this. Like that's really like, send me those. Send me those
I like
lyrics.
how you assume they were asleep.
Well, I meant it as like a metaphor, but yeah, no, they probably are. Yeah. Hey, wake up.
It's early.
Yeah. It's 4:00 in the afternoon. Wake up.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, they awesome. Really do. And I think if you really boil down some of the label responsibilities, not just like overall handling of logistics, but yeah, doing those like little day-to-day things that artists really don't want to do, aren't very good at, and in a perfect world shouldn't have to do if we want them focusing on their art, I guess.
Sure. And I can't make a song, so
that's so cool.
Like I'm happy to email on your.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I may go ahead and make a tally of all the. Maybe I'll put a little checkbox next to my desk of everyone who
You should.
I talk to starts a label, and but yeah, no, I think it's great. I mean, to me, what I love about it, I admire people like you more than artists, because the artists I've talked to who've started record labels, they've started it because they're self-releasing their own music and they want to look legitimate. So they come up with a label to make themselves look legitimate. And so I feel like for you, you're coming at it from a different place. You're coming at it about helping people, whereas us artists are coming at it from a selfish place. So I actually admire people like you more than the opposite.
Well, there's things like, as an artist, like you can understand that. Like I couldn't, right? Like I'm like, I don't know. There's like little things I don't know when it comes to explaining the music, or you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So it's like there's a huge strength in an artist running a label for sure.
Well, but at the same time, I mean, to have someone who's not bogged down by the creative and the subjectivity of things, and can probably have a clear head. I feel like that it would be nice to have somebody like that in a lot of the arguments I've had with artists. Somebody who can just be a healthy moderator.
Right. So neutral. Can't help it. Yeah.
Emily, this has been so fun chatting with you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing it. It's been a blast.
This is great.
Thank you all for listening. Please subscribe. Please leave a comment if you use YouTube to listen to this podcast, and I'll get back to you. Please leave a review on iTunes. That would be really nice. And one of the greatest things you can do for the show is to promote it amongst your industry friends and colleagues, and you can share it on Twitter. You can connect with me on Instagram at Other Record Labels. And you can visit our website where you can download a bunch of free resources and check out the things we have there at otherrecordlabels.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. Stay in touch.